I titled this one "The Deal That Died in the Dark." I once lost a car deal over a dome light. Yeah, that stupid little thing on the ceiling that lights up the whole car interior. Turns out it's really important for a lot of things. But I lost it over the stupid light, not the rate, not the rebate, not the trade that smelled like beef jerky and cigarettes and just regret all over it. I mean, the negative equity this person was carrying was absolutely insane. But the customer sat down inside the vehicle, looked at the ceiling, and straight up said, "This feels like a hospital. I don't want to feel like I'm dying every time I go to Target." And I'll never forget the way that I felt when they said that. It was just like this little bit of shock. And that was it. They got up out of the vehicle. They gave me this little pity wave. They got in their car and they drove off. To this day, I still want to think that it was something that I did. And the reason is that I can't get around blaming a dome light. But it got me to thinking, what does this little 5-watt thing that's on the ceiling actually do for us? Because none of us want to be sitting there or standing there in this case, being completely stunned because your customer vaporized doing an LED that's in the ceiling. And it was at this moment that I realized something that we don't sell features, we sell feelings. And sometimes those feelings live in the light, quite literally in this particular podcast. And I say it quite a bit is that when you're working with people, it's a people business. If you're in sales or you're working the service drive or you're working the parts counter, listen to me. This is a people business. If you want to retain those customers, you have to get them to enjoy their time with you. So you remember episode 29? It was called The Great Reset. I talk about it a lot. We talked about this weird waiting period, right? It's after the sale, it's before finance. It's like this crazy, ridiculous vortex of like liminal space that the customer is just going to be sitting there wondering, what the heck am I doing right now? Am I doing the right thing? What if this $600 a month vehicle is just a straight up mistake? And it's your job to say, hey, you know what? Congrats. It's to anchor the feeling of positivity to keep that customer feeling upbeat. That's where the interior light steps in this particular example. Imagine opening the door to your brand new ride. It's nighttime, the cabin glows, the soft, warm amber color. It's not just a car anymore. It's yours. It's something that you earned. You're proud of this thing. The dome light becomes that confirmation when you first get in the vehicle. We don't really think about it very much, but it's not usually very flashy. It's not usually too loud. It just gives you this kind of feeling that humans can connect with. There's actually a really good reason for that. And it's something that every single one of us should start to understand, especially if we have customers coming in at night, and how we can help these customers bond to the vehicle better through science. Let's talk brain science. The customer's amygdala, that's that little walnut piece that's inside of your brain that controls things like fear and emotion and really can process things like light faster than it can process things like logic, which means your dome light might actually be closing the deal before your F&I manager even opens the drawer of sorcery that they store all their menus in. And here's how it works. And we're going to get into some of the actual automotive manufacturing stuff in just a moment here. Blue light equals a more modern appeal. It provides a setting that feels a bit more sterile and it feels a little bit colder. There's a reason that this is used an awful lot in buildings where people need to be productive. It helps you stay awake. Ambient light, this gives you more of a cozy, grounded feel, like Honey, I'm Home vibes, where you open the vehicle up, you see these nice, beautiful LEDs throughout the whole thing now, maybe some footwell lighting. And when you open up the door, it just feels like an extension of your house. And that's what people are looking for a lot of times. And then you have the red light. Red light inside the vehicles is leveraged with almost every single manufacturer. It either means one of two things. Either A, I hit that little button and it's high performance fun time, or it's the ship's going down and it's going down fast. So with this, lightning bypasses logic and taps directly into emotion. You walk into a spa, you have dim, warm light. You walk into the DMV, it's fluorescent and stressful. Believe it or not, have to think that they kind of gear it for that. But the same thing happens with your car as well. That soft glow inside, that's a physiological comfort blanket that tells your brain you're not in danger. No, Anything but that. You're actually in control. What would this podcast be if I didn't throw some nerd stats at you? So let's get into a few. First off, BMW did a survey not too long ago. They found out that 1/10 of a candle's light illumination inside of a vehicle offered up a more premium feel and comfort. And they found out on things like surveys that people literally believed when they got into the vehicle that the seats felt more luxurious just because of the soft lighting. As it turns out, things like amber and orange lighting inside the car also increases things like perceived safety and material quality. And this is one of those reasons that you haven't seen a lot of manufacturers, especially with vehicles that are more entry level, run away from halogen light. Halogen light still is kind of like a little fire that burns inside there. It's calming for us in a lot of different ways when it's inside the car. Once you start to get those blue lights, then it starts to get a little bit annoying, and the white lights, we're just kind of all getting headaches around here. But the thing with this is that lighting has such an effect on our own personal attitudes when we get into the vehicle and also while we're driving and then when we get out. And manufacturers are capitalizing on this. And as I said before, we can leverage it. So what about that footwell lighting? Well, that wasn't invented for people to just to be able to find their fries on the floor. That's there for spatial awareness. The human brain is actually calmer when it knows its boundaries, especially important things like the floor and the ceiling. That's why 61.9% of ambient lighting installs today focus on things like footwells, because they just help people feel more grounded. Literally. Here's the deal. Most sales consultants skip even talking about this stuff. And for a good reason. We have this thing that I like to call being innocently complacent. It's just what we do. We see certain parts of the car every single day. And there's some things that we just kind of leave off. Like maybe window switches, how the seats function, how the cruise control work. I mean, it's just the basics we sometimes skip over. Full well lighting is definitely one of those things. And we have a lighting as well in places like all over the console. And most sales consultants focus in on things like the specs and torque and horsepower curves and wireless charging and all the new tech that's rolling out. And those be important, those are not the things that are going to go ahead and seal your deal. Those are just stats. And if that's your kind of customer, then good, go in that direction. But most people really don't care about the stats. They care about that emotional connection to the vehicle. And so that little glow that's in the console, it's there as something that, well, isn't useful really at all. It's just kind of a glow. But it's useful in a different way because it doesn't have a practical purpose as far as like it's tangible, like I can touch it, move it, and maybe it can help me read a book. Usually that's not the case with these lights. They're there because they make you feel good. And that feeling of feeling good, that's strategic. If you skip over this, it's like going ahead and trying to bake a cake and just skipping the frosting and going, hey, here it is. You're missing the good stuff. The good stuff is getting that customer to go ahead and realize that, hey, when I'm in this car, I feel better. And I feel better because I know why I feel better. Not just throwing them in there and going, okay, what do you think of the radio? Don't skimp out on the environment. The environment is one of the biggest things that creates an engaging experience between you and the individual that you're working with. Now, many cars out there today have a billion different color choices that the interiors can go to. And it's awesome. You can do yellow light, blue light, brown light. Don't knock it until you try it. It sounds really weird, but once you have it going, it's just super chill. Here's this little script for you on this. When you're sitting down with the customer, just point it out. This glow right here, it could be the footwells, could be the steering wheel lighting, it could be anything that is inside the vehicle that's taking up a lot of space, bathing in light. Look at the customer. This glow right here. How do you feel right now? Well, I kind of like it. All right. Now that feeling, I want you to remember that because after a long day of you being dealing with clients or doing what you do, you're going to get into your vehicle. You're then going to simply step in and exhale. You made the right call. This is the right vehicle. How do you feel right now? And the customer will look at you a little off for a second there because they are now getting in touch with something that most sales consultants never really sell. It's the feeling and it's connecting an actual thing with an actual emotion. And it's not just, well, does it make you happy? Well, yeah, of course the car makes the customer happy. They want it. That's why they're there in the first place. They're trying to feed a positive emotion. But as soon as you go ahead and connect these things, you can start to look at the customer and go, hey, do you like a different color? I like my greens or my blues. Cool. This is like an emotional dimmer switch. What color makes you feel super chill? Well, I don't know, hot pink. Go ahead and move it to that color. And next thing you know, how you feeling? Oh my gosh, I couldn't believe I can do this inside my car. You can make this however you want because the environment that you are in currently right now is going to dictate a lot about your mood moving forward. But check this out. When you look at all brands out there, they all stand for something a little bit different. And they think that they can catch customers in slightly different ways, and they can. Everybody has a different thing that they like. And neuro branding is a really big deal right now. Neuro branding is the ability to wire the product to somebody's emotional memory. If you take a look at a BMW, you'll see that just by that orange glow in their dash, it's not an accident. It's going to make you feel a certain way. Mercedes, right? They treat the interior like a spa inside of there with, again, 64 different color choices and full length LED strips that go throughout the whole interior of the stinking vehicle. And it looks gorgeous. And with Tesla, they go for that minimalist approach for years. I don't know if any of you have seen the earlier ones here, but their interiors felt like a microwave that had commitment issues. But guess what? Even Tesla caved. And now they've added things like LED strip accents inside because lighting sells more than logic does. Emotion is the driver to success. So we have to play up to that. The interior lighting inside of vehicles is like a brand's handshake and the warm hug that the customer receives every single time they get on in. Hi, I'm part of your identity. I align with you. That's why the customer has 64 different color choices at Mercedes-Benz and over at Kia Hyundai. But then you go ahead and you open up that door. You see that light just that you selected washing through the whole interior. You look at the steering wheel, it has a light up logo on it. Why? It's completely impractical as well, but it's there to let you know that this is special. You look at your gauges now do a fun little dance, right? If you have a Kia Hyundai, you'll notice that your logos dance. If you have a Mercedes, they kind of open up. If you have a Tesla, the whole thing wakes up and it's just like, hi, I'm here to serve. But as the touchscreen loads and the engine fires up, all of these things have different visual cues that happen inside the vehicles. Some manufacturers will go ahead and have their RPM gauge just bobble up and down because it looks super cool as the engine fires up. Some manufacturers will go ahead and have the needle sweep in the front with the RPMs, just so you have more of a connection with the vehicle. All in all, lighting equals identity. And with the high customization of today's vehicles, by going ahead and showing customers, hey, here's how we can tweak these things like dome lights inside the car to be better for you, all of a sudden you have a customer that's realizing that you're not just in the game to sell them a car. You're in this to protect their emotions from negative harm and make them actually feel better during this experience. But let's go deeper. Orange from BMW, it says precision and purpose. And that's what people believe. That orange color has been around forever and it's still inside of their digital gauges. And way back in the day, I remember even on older Volkswagens, you still would see that like orange backlit color. And they've done a very good job at BMW of bringing that up back. Mercedes, purple. Why? The reason for purple is that purple is directly connected to things like trust. It's directly connected to things like loyalty and royalty. So let's go a little bit deeper. BMW took the orange color out of like the 1970s, 1980s halogen, and they just amplified it and they made it better. And I love it when manufacturers do this. You'll listen to a few of my episodes. I absolutely love 80s and 90s stuff, but things like this make me just smile when I get inside of a driving machine. And so when you sit inside of a new BMW, you'll see these orange gauges. You can select them. If you don't like them, you can probably change them. But this offers up the feeling of precision and purpose that you get behind the vehicle and the vehicle is now armed and ready for you. Now, Mercedes, they like to use that purple color. That's the color that basically has the car exude that, hey, even the candlelight inside the vehicle had a trust fund. The thing is that it's meant to bring up loyalty, wealth, royalty. And these are items that then get people to stick with Mercedes. Even if you don't have the coin and you're buying one of their more basic cars, they still give you that feeling of, I've made it in life. And then you look at other companies, let's say like Kia. Kia likes to use a whitish blue light inside their vehicles. Why? Well, it's for the reading lights inside, and they do something pretty unique with it. They shove them up inside the headliner, so even the kid in the back playing with the light, driver can't see it. But when you do click them on, it offers this clean, modern, techie kind of feeling immediately, just because of the color that it is. And then you get to choose the rest of your colors. And all these manufacturers give you the ability to go ahead and tune the inside to what you'd like. If you don't like the Mercedes purple, cool, go ahead and change it, right? You don't like BMW's orange, go ahead and switch your gauges to something else. When you go ahead and you hop inside of Kia, you get, again, 64 different color choices. And this is not a gimmick in any way. This is what we call co-ownership, where the customer can get in the vehicle and they can go, oh my gosh, I can choose. Yeah, you create your environment inside of this one. If you really like it, the brand might even have an area for you to go ahead and purchase additional colors or themes to add to your vehicle. This again bonds the customer to the vehicle a little bit more. So when the customer picks their ambient lighting, it's not just them choosing their car, it's them starting a relationship with that specific vehicle. Note this because when you pull the next vehicle around, if you have to show multiple cars, simply go ahead and set the lighting to what they selected in the previous vehicle. It's going to make it a whole lot easier of a transition to go from one vehicle to the next, especially if you have to go from, let's say, a midsize sedan to a sport compact, even though today's sport compacts aren't really tiny anymore. But when you have to make that transition, if you have the ability to set the lighting to the right color, now the customer is going to get in and go, oh, this isn't too terribly different. It's because you sold the emotional side of it. Selling the product side of it, it works, but now we're talking negotiation and this and that. I want to amplify your drive to purchase to the point where you can no longer afford yourself the ability to say no. You need this vehicle. Next nerd stat drop. Lighting has a brand DNA. And it is. When you look at the exterior vehicles, you can tell certain manufacturers go with certain lighting because it just works, right? And when you take a look at a BMW, you can see those massive nostrils on the front, and sometimes they light up, they just work. You got Mercedes with their gigantic logo on the front and the rear of their vehicles, they light those up, and sometimes a couple other like bars in the grill or something like that, and they look great. Well, let's look at Mercedes again real quick. They have this 190 LED system inside their vehicle. It will change colors based on your drive modes. A lot of manufacturers do that. But it will literally change colors based on how you're driving. And that is where it gets pretty cool. So these are just little things that point out as you go along. Ford was one of the first brands to let buyers actually get in and start customizing these things because they realized, well, Mustangs all had that weird Achilles heel where, or is it a sports car? Is it not a sports car? We can leave that for debate another day. So what they did is they said, hey, you know what? The whole point to Mustang in the first place was to be fun. It wasn't meant to be the fastest. It wasn't meant to be the best handling. It was meant to simply just be driving enjoyment to the purest of levels. So let's allow people to go ahead and start to customize this. Genesis did this super cool thing that they offered as a mood curator mode. And this is where you can have like lighting and a scent diffuser and a massager inside your seat. Go ahead and perform like spa-like action as you're driving the vehicle. Yeah, it was like high-end wellness on wheels. And I just the sheer thought of being able to do that sounds absolutely incredible. But that's something that somebody's not going to run away from very easily. Heck, you're not going to go ahead and leave Genesis and go to Lexus and go, hey, well, do you have that scent diffuser that goes inside the vehicle? The sales consultant's going to look at you and go, what the heck are you talking about? But let's not stop there. I can get caught up on that. Cadillac actually laser etches mood lighting into their dash trim. And this is by going ahead and laser etching certain channels and filling it in with like a glass or a plastic that allows that light to just flow and give you not that direct light feel, but then there's light there. I can see my environment and I feel more comfortable because why not go ahead and do things like mix hardwood inside the vehicles with Tron? It's the only logical thing to do. So let's talk tactics. It's time for us to turn into our whole dome light jet. You wouldn't sell the sound system without hitting play. Why are we delivering cars with the ambient lighting turned off? Here's a new demo playbook, AutoKnerd style. First off, you gotta set that mood. Pull that car on over to, let's say, a shaded area in a bay if it's light outside, or wait till dusk in order to do your delivery. Don't just talk about the lighting. Show it. Okay. Or if it's for your presentation and you just want to be able to get that emotional attachment going, show it. Pull it around somewhere that they can actually see it and let that silence do its work. Hit the light, turn it on, and then get this, shut up. Yes, give the customer 3 seconds to just sit in it. Their brain will kick in and they will go, oh, that feels nice. Time to go ahead and anchor that emotion. Now you speak this line. And here is your magical incantation. This isn't just light. This is what it feels like when your day's done. The world shuts up and this car says, welcome back. Trust me, it hits harder than you going ahead and getting in the car with the customer going, and we have dual zone climate control. What car doesn't these days? Stop showing things that everything else has. Or how about this one? Pick a color that matches your vibe. Today, my vibe feels like it's a little bit more of a light, icy blue color. So you go ahead and you switch it. And then who knows? Maybe they'll reply with something along the lines like, well, it's Friday night. I like lava red. You know what? Car's got you covered. Let's go ahead and set it to that. It's not about being flashy. It's about making the car feel familiar, making it feel like it's part of their family. This glow feels like it's going to be the end of the week for this person, and they can customize it in a lot of the vehicles. But if we take two companies that are very different in how they handle customers and how they handle people and how they handle their brands, we're going to look at Mercedes and Tesla head to head. Now, I know I mentioned them a couple times through here, and I usually don't dig too far down into specific brands unless it's a history episode. But this is actually pretty interesting. When you look at Mercedes, you'll see things like 64 color choices of lights inside, lights that pulse along with the music, vents that glow warmer or adjust due to temperature. That's cool. Then also dashes that glow red when collision sensors activate, which is meant to scare you because, again, your amygdala can act faster to light than reading a stop sign. Flash red inside, you hit the brake. So it's not lighting, it's freaking choreographed light opera inside your vehicle that's working alongside you. It's almost like you're a little companion that's notifying you and chilling you out, and you don't even know it's there. But on the other side of that, you have Tesla. Now, this is one has lights, and one decided to go ahead and create an iPad on wheels. It had no mood lighting in the interior. It had one or two little lights inside, and that was all you got. It was just this tablet that was sitting right there. Customers started modding the interior of their cars to add color back on in and add light back on in so they can actually see and feel their interior again. Well, in 2023, Tesla finally added light strips to the Model 3 and the Model Y. And the reason was because even the cleanest design out there has to have a heartbeat. It has to have something that people can latch onto. And this again brings us back to that underlying, well, heartbeat that we keep seeing pop up in a lot of my episodes here. Is that when it comes down to sales, it's not about the product, it's not about the price. It's about getting that customer to understand that this is the vehicle for you. And sometimes it's about making the car seem somewhat alive. And this is one way that Tesla pulled that off. So what does this mean for you? It means the customer already expects lighting, they don't even know to ask about it. And if you're feeling in a competitive quote battle with somebody, that ambient lighting might actually make it feel a little bit nicer inside the vehicle and factor into this and tips the scales. Yes, something as tiny and as inconsequential as the interior lighting. So we talked about mood and we talked about brand. Let's zero in on the customer's actual physiology. Interior lighting doesn't just look nice, it hacks the nervous system. That soft dome light, well, again, it's not a decoration. It's a signal to the amygdala that you're safe and you have belonging here. And when the brain believes that, it stops scanning for threats and it chills the heck out. Our job, again, is to reduce customer anxieties to give them the ability to give themselves permission to buy. That's your window when they start to chill out. That's when the customer becomes open to saying things like, okay, I'm in. Sweet. We're going to go ahead and get that done. But I'd be remiss if I didn't give you this little pro tip. Blue rich lighting in the interior of cars boosts things like alertness and can actually raise things like anxiety and stress. So when next time you pull a vehicle around, maybe just make sure they're not blue. Make sure they're not any sort of blue color. In addition to that, if you go for things like orange or gold or soft reds or those pink colors, those actually have a very direct connection to safety. We're conditioned for that since we were little kids. Those are all the emergency light signals for the most part. This will shift the brain from fight or flight to rest and own it. This gives them that ability to take those objections and let them die. Ownership is now being born, and most of those objections are going to go away really fast. But the stats don't just stop there and, hey, here's how this color makes people react. Interior lighting reduced driver fatigue in long hauls in tests by up to 25%, just simply keeping the people more alert. In ambient lit cabins, customers rated the quality of the materials even higher than before, so it got them to bond to the car better. In tests, orange lighting was consistently voted as making the interior feel more luxurious. And that goes across all demographics, all age groups, everything. And again, over 61.9% of ambient lighting installs out there prioritize things like footwell lighting because it helps calm people and keep them grounded. People aren't putting these things in their dashes. They're putting them at their feet. They're putting them on the ceiling. They're trying to see their environment to make them feel more comfortable. The next time you're on a test drive, there's something I want you to pay attention to. Look at the customer and don't say a word. Just I'm not saying stare at them, that's just creepy. But as they're driving along and conversation just goes dead, if you look at them and you notice that their eyes are glazed over a little bit, that means that mental ownership is starting to take hold. People usually don't think, "How can I get out of this?" They usually think, "How can I actually make this happen?" And then we raise a bunch of objections, then keep them from buying the car. But the selling part, that's easy. Keeping them sold, that's the game. And this is where things like lighting inside the vehicle actually plays a huge role for long-term satisfaction. So we know how people fall in love with their car during that solo night drive. You just get out there, you start to drive on the open road. This does exactly the same thing, other than the customer now owns the vehicle. So this is all about getting great surveys at this point. Get that lighting at delivery set to how the customer loves it, what makes them feel in the zone. Then, as they're going ahead and they're driving that vehicle late at night, they're not going to fall in love with just the horsepower. They're not going to fall in love with just the space. And I dare say that if they bought a minivan, they're not going to live with that regret of, hey, I just bought the soccer mom, soccer dad car. They're gonna be going down that road in the middle of the night with this beautiful lit up landscape that you helped them set up, and they're gonna fall in love with the atmosphere, and they're gonna fall back in love with the person that they bought it from that showed them how this thing actually works. Interior lighting, it's like a mental map maker for people. It says, "You're here, you're safe, and you made the right choice." It makes the drive a little ritual every single time because the glow becomes part of your daily decompression time. And that's where the vast majority of us have the 5 seconds of the day to get some privacy and just chill out. If you do this right, they'll miss this on every single other vehicle that they'll go take a look at. So if you're at that Mercedes, that Kia, that Tesla dealer, and the customer leaves to go look at something else, if it's not in there and the customer and the sales consultant is not showing it, the atmosphere is going to be thrown off, especially if they go ahead and they look at that vehicle at night. It's just another thing that helps you retain that customer. So let's be real about this. Customers don't leave you bad reviews about things like drivetrain torque or brake rotors. They leave you bad reviews about things like how they felt driving the vehicle at night. The lighting didn't feel on par. You want them to report back to you that, hey, I absolutely love this car. Or in your survey tag does not say a darn thing about any of the stuff on it. But when done right, on surveys, here's what we hear. I love driving the vehicle at night because it's supposed to be a show in the interior and the exterior. That's how manufacturers are designing them these days. The lighting makes it feel upscale. My kids call it a spaceship. These are things that they love. This is the stuff that sticks. And you, as a smart sales consultant, can lock it into their memory before they even leave the lot. But even when you're taking a look at your used cars out there, take a close look. Some of those do have ambient lighting on them. And there's a little bit of a resale boost here because in used cars, it's actually proven that when you show them a vehicle with things like an orange ambient interior color, all of a sudden the person starts to say things like, somebody cared about this car. Somebody went ahead and went the distance with this thing. They really made sure that this thing was taken care of. Do you want to see the service records? No, they don't matter. That car is in great shape. It's because of the emotional case that this particular item is one of the most powerful things to get the customer to love it. So show this on even the used cars that are out there. It's not just a new car thing. So here's what we know. Interior lighting is not an accessory. It's a language. A customer's first interaction with the car isn't the engine. It's the cabin, the feeling, the welcome. When you light it right, you're not selling metal. You're selling peace. You're selling tranquility. You're not closing a transaction. You're opening up a relationship and starting a friendship. Because in the end, the car isn't just a vehicle. It's a moving mood. It's a glow, a pocket of calm in a chaotic world. And if you can sell that feeling, you'll never sell just cars again. You're on the right track now. That is our podcast for today, all about the interior lighting of vehicles. So go out there, flip that switch, sell that glow with kindness, because kindness is the razor that takes down anxiety and gets people to say yes faster. The nice thing here is that we also know a couple little tricks with lighting that can help them say that even quicker. So until next Thursday, I'll talk to y'all later. Have a great one. AutoKnerd out.